Right, so what we want to be able to do is to programmatically decide where we want to go, as opposed to just using the navigation stack at the top of the header. Right, so for instance, navigating explicitly to another page. So for instance, we can add a link in a particular screen that we want to deliberately go home. Right, so from screen A, down below this, right, we can say, okay, I want to go home. With this button, and then on press, it would use the props navigation and then navigate home, right? And this is the props that we're receiving in our constructor, okay? So all right, so if we run that, we go to screen A, notice that we have a go home button now, right? That if we click on go home, it just goes back to the home, right? An alternative to doing that is to, instead of using navigate home, there is a function. If you don't know where you came from, right, you don't want to have to know exactly the name of the page you came from, you can just say go back. Right, so go back just goes back to your previous one in the stack. So if we refresh and you go to screen A, it just goes back to, or like a cancel button would give you just go back, right? You don't do anything. Right? So one of the shortcuts for navigation, right? Instead of having to type the entire configuration when you're configuring the stack, instead of having to do home and screen, and if you're only configuring the screen, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can configure here. Okay, but if you're only configuring the screen, right? You can use the following shortcut. Right? You can do away with the entire object screen home. You can just say home. Right? So for instance, you can just remove that. So in the configuration here, where are you? You can just leave out and configure the components in the stack without the screen, if that's the only thing you're configuring. Which is very common. It's very common that the only thing you configure is the screen in the stack, right? And this works just as well, right? If you refresh, this should still work, right? Now, so that's the navigation library allows you to do that shortcut. Now, there's another shortcut that this is just a behavior in an ES6, right? The latest version in JavaScript. Is that if you have an object where the name of the property and the name of the value are identical, right? There's a shortcut for objects that have that feature, and is that you can just use the name of the property. Right? The name of the property, right, will have the same name as the value, right? That's a shortcut. So you can use these very easy shortcuts, right? And this works just the same. Everybody okay? So the only other thing that is of interest is passing arguments, right? If you're navigating from one page to the other page, you would like to pass an argument, perhaps the ID of the question maybe, right? So that question can then load itself in that component, right? So you want to pass arguments from one page to the next, right? So you might have a list of questions, right? Each one knowing its own ID. And then when you want to navigate to the editor, you need to say, oh, I want to edit this particular question, right? And then it loads itself from where it needs to load. So to pass parameters, basically, when you navigate, right, in the navigate function, you can pass a separate object next to it. Right? So basically, when you navigate, not only can you say what screen do you want to go to, but you can also pass an object, a map, right, with name-value pairs. Right, so this could be maybe the ID of the question and the value of the question ID, right? And then on the other side, right, you can receive that parameter, right, and then load yourself as needed. Right? So to implement this, let's create a separate screen X class. So let's copy that. And let's create a screen X here. So this would be screen X. And it's just a regular component, extends component, renders. And in the render, right, we're just going to return. We're going to return a view. Here's a view. Right before the return, right in the render, right here, right? We're going to use a property. So there's a property. This is a navigation property that gets passed to us, right? Because we are part of the navigation stack. So there's a function. There's a navigate function in there, right? But there's also a getParam function in there as well that allows us to parse any parameters that were passed to us when they navigated to us. Right? So let's grab that. We'll say right here in the render. Okay. So this is the parameter name that was passed to us, and a default value if they called us, but without the value, with any value, right, without passing any parameter. So we can always default to that default value. Okay. All right. So we can load this from our apps here. We can load the screen X. So let's see. We can say import screen X from elements, and then this is screen X. There it is. And then just add screen X as the navigation here. So let's go to the navigation stack. There it is. Okay. And now in the home, we had links to go to A, B. Right. Let's add another one. Let's go to screen X. So let's go to screen X. Okay. But now, instead of just going to navigate and say that I want to go to screen X, we're going to pass an argument. Right? We're going to pass an additional object, right? Which is a map of name-value pairs. Right? And we name the properties whatever we want to pass along. So presumably, screen X is waiting for a property name parameter, right? So let's pass a parameter called parameter, and then this is the value, right? Some value. Oops, sorry, it's an object, right? So that's what will be passed when I click on go to screen X. So let's take a look at that. Unexpected token. Where? Screen X? The screen X render. Thank you. So this is return. Can we load that? All right, there's screen X. And when I click on it, notice it says screen some value. That's the value that we're passing as an argument. Notice that it didn't use the default value, right? It used just the actual value. So if I wouldn't have passed it, right? If I would have called it, if I would have navigated without passing the parameter, notice that it would use the default value instead. Okay. So you could use that, right, so that the component would know how to handle some default value, some default behavior. All right, there you go. So I think we have almost all the skills that we need to be able to build this. We need to look at being able to click on a button, right? And as we click on a button, add new questions, right? And then once we have a question, perhaps from the list, click on a list item and then go to the editor for that particular question, right? Also, we need to take a look at inheritance using normalized inheritance. I did add a presentation there that covers inheritance, the various types of inheritance. Here, class inheritance with JPA. If you could go over that for tomorrow. Right, so when you come, we can just breeze through that quickly. All right, if you could read up on that. All right, awesome. Thank you.